Hey everybody, what's happening? So I'm on my way to work to the office. Thought I would do a little video here. So thanks for tuning in. If you haven't, check out the debate I did last night. I thought I reported myself very well. And there were some developments that occurred during the debate that I kind of foreshadowed, but I was unaware that occurred, which was that Trump has announced that he is giving the green light to declassify all of the documents in the Russia collusion hoax. That's a great development. It could be too little too late. By the time that information actually finds its way to the American people, the election could be over. And I think the American people deserve to know that against Donald Trump, or even if that's incorrect, they at least deserve to have access to the information that proves whether or not it was legitimate or corrupt or not. So I wish that Donald Trump would have done this. I really do. I think that we should have had declassification a long time ago, but I guess better late than never. So this goes along with what I was saying in the debate last night, and I think you're going to start to see that there's going to be more and more damning information. The information out there is already incredible that shows the corruption that's occurring. It's unbelievable. But as you can see in the debate last night, people that think Orange Man bad will be okay with the FBI and their coup attempt. By the way, if you're listening, just let me know if the audio is okay. So thanks. So yeah, I'm hoping that that declassification occurs in a robust fashion. If I could give advice to Trump, it would be this. Do not trust the FBI. Do not trust people at the CIA to be forthcoming with this evidence. Send Ratcliffe in there immediately. Send Bill Barr in immediately. Declassify it all. Do not give them an option to say, but wait, we need to discuss, whether or not this needs to be redacted or that. Declassify it all. At this point, the evidence that we can see that there was animus directed at the Trump campaign by leaders of the intel community, and that there was a plot by Hillary Clinton to falsely smear Trump as colluding with Russia. And we can see all sorts of things that were wrong with the investigation, such as primary subsource for the Steele dossier being a Kremlin agent that the FBI suspected, using that paid opposition research to spy on a presidential campaign. All of the other problems. We know that it was all disinformation, that Trump's campaign never illegally conspired with Russia in the 2016 election. We know all of that. Given all of that, and how the media, the Democrats, and the intel agencies themselves have been so reticent to release information or to give a clear story to be transparent to the American people. What's up, 6079? Given all of that, the only option to ensure faith in the process and these agencies to the American people is to classify everything involved in this situation now. Now, what you'll see, the argument that you can see being made by the left is, this is Trump causing a distraction. So this is something that the establishment always does. They engage in some sort of corrupt behavior and tell you, you can't question it right now because it's imperative that we be allowed to protect sources and methods, and so you can't question it, or you're jeopardizing the country and safety. You can't question it. So, for example, the Bill Clinton sexual assault allegations. At the time, they were completely covered up for by the mainstream media and the Democratic Party. Now, years later, when they want to weaponize sexual assault allegations for political purposes, they say, yeah, you're right, we should have questioned that more. Oh, well, it was a long time ago now. And this is constantly the case. The Iraq War, we have to go. Yeah, you're right, we should have investigated that more and not just blindly accepted it. Oh, well, that was a long time ago. Now trust everything we say blindly again. This is constantly what they do. It is not a distraction. Remember, the media and the Democrats couldn't stop saying Russia, 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 Russia. It was the most important issue for 3.5 years. Then once the investigation blew up in their face, now all of a sudden, it's a distraction to talk about the investigation. Oh, that's a distraction. We should be talking about other things. It's the same with the impeachment fiasco. The impeachment of Donald Trump was a politically motivated hit that was designed to cover up the crimes of the Obama administration, where they issued a quid pro quo in order to fire a prosecutor that was looking at Joe Biden's son. That's what the impeachment scenario was. To protect that so that Donald Trump was not able to investigate that. As soon as impeachment was done, did the Democrats talk about it? Did they talk about it at the Democratic convention? Nope. Now when you talk about, wait a minute, look at all this that's coming out with the potential whistleblower and with Vindman, and we now find out that Yovanovitch, who was a star witness in the Ukrainian prosecution, who was the ambassador to the Ukraine appointed by Obama, we find out that her office was spying on a bunch of conservative journalists and people like Trump Jr. Oh, that's distraction. That's a distraction now. What the left does is, particularly the establishment left, is they have, I talk about this all the time, they've won the culture war. They control, they almost totally control every institution that shapes our narrative. So it's the mainstream media, academia, Silicon Valley, the entertainment industry. And so because of that, anytime you point out something that looks bad for them, they say, nope, that's not the narrative we want to talk about. So, for example, they couldn't wait to run. Even in Comey's testimony the other day, every Democrat was on the same talking point. Oh, Comey, isn't it troubling that Trump owes money to someone? Isn't it troubling that Trump has a loan? Would that be a national security risk if Trump owes money or received money from Russians? Oh, yes, says James Comey. Meanwhile, in the news cycle, at the exact same time, we find out that Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's son, while Joe was vice president, was receiving money from China, from corrupt oligarchs in the Ukraine, from Russian mayors' wives. They don't want to talk, that's all distraction, to talk about that stuff. I know, my beard is getting gray, absolutely. So, this is what they do. They're claiming it's a distraction. It is not a distraction. And I wish, one of the things with the debate last night, like I said, to fully be flushed out, it would have had to have been about 8 hours. There was so much I wanted to say that I didn't get a chance to. But one of the things that I really wanted to hammer home that I regret that I was unable to was the fact that any foreign interference that you might suggest happen with memes or even with people hacking emails pales in comparison to if we have an intel agency that was used as a political weapon to go out. Said, if you read the Federalist Papers, clearly the Founding Fathers were concerned about outside influence on our elections. That's true, but clearly the Founding Fathers were even more concerned with government tyranny. In fact, that was the entire basis for the revolution. So they put a checks and balances system in to make sure that the executive branch couldn't corruptly use law enforcement or investigative tools as a weapon against political opponents. If that's what occurred, we no longer have a democracy. Or a republic. Because I say this all the time. This should concern you on the left as well. Your issue doesn't matter if any candidate that disagrees with the intel community will be spied upon, will be attacked by their allies in the mainstream media. So to now see the left classified, it'll prove? Of course it won't. And they know it won't. So I welcome that declassification. I'm skeptical that it'll happen, I'll be honest. I think Trump's starting to see the writing on the wall. Like, wow, I can't believe that I was targeted in this coup. I think he mistakenly thought, well, one, I think that he's intentionally thought, I'll wait until we're close to the election to do this. And he didn't anticipate something like the Democrats pushing the politicization of COVID or something like that would drown out the coup. But secondly, I think Trump probably thought, well, I'll have allies in the media or other allies. Sorry about that. But I think he mistakenly believed that his allies would be able to go to the media and correctly disseminate to the American people how absurd and how dangerous this coup against him was. And yes, that's happened. There are millions, if not thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that are awoke to this. Most of you watching probably are. But he underestimated the brainwashing ability of the left and the establishment being able to control the narrative. So just like last night in that debate, I could point out my opponent, who doesn't seem like a person that's not intelligent, he totally concedes that the FBI used information from a Russian source that the FBI themselves said was seeking to damage national security, took that information and spied on a presidential campaign without verifying any of that information. He also admits that it's definitely a horrible thing that they would use information that wasn't verified to spy on anyone, let alone a presidential campaign. Yet he doesn't have a problem with it. He's like, it's small potatoes. Yeah, no big deal. What about those Russian Pokemon Go memes? That's the big stuff, right? Not the FBI spying on a presidential campaign using Russian disinformation. And so I think that Trump needs to understand, get Grinnell out there, get Ratcliffe out there, get Tom Fitton from Judicial Watch appointed to a position where they could make sure that this information is declassified immediately, preferably well before the election, like today. Because if it comes out 2 or 3 days before the election, one, most people already voted, and second, the media will do everything they can to bury the story. That's why it's imperative that this information comes out now. Now, the other thing that's worth talking about is apparently at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, there's supposed to be a hearing, a national security briefing that Chris Wray will be at, in addition to other people from the DOJ and FBI, and all we've been told it has national security implications. I have been reading from sources I trust that have been accurate on Twitter that it is going to be Christopher Wray, the current director of the FBI, and someone who, if not was involved in this coup, certainly has deflected for it, and is just another in a long line of people running the FBI that are against Donald Trump, from Comey to Rosenstein to Christopher Wray. And so if he steps down, which would probably be him being forced to step down, that is great news. Christopher Wray is the person that would have you believe Antifa's not, it's not a big deal. All the violence we see that's occurred with Black Lives Matter and Antifa over the past 4 months that we've all seen, over 200 separate locations that have had violence result of their rallies, of them rallying and protesting by hundreds of thousands of millions during a pandemic that the rest of us are told we can't go to church, we can't go to work. Christopher Wray said, it's not really a problem. The real problem is white supremacy. That's the real problem. So don't believe all those riots you see. It's all the white supremacists. That's the real problem. That's Christopher Wray for you. Antifa, they're not an organization. That's Christopher Wray for you. Christopher Wray isn't really talking about China interfering in our system, clearly our biggest geopolitical adversary. Nope, it's all Russia, 24/7 with Christopher Wray. So hopefully those reports are accurate and that's what's happening. It's Christopher Wray stepping down. That would be fantastic news. Again, is it too little too late? I hope not. But one of the reasons that Christopher Wray should be forced out is that he will oppose and slow walk the release of this information regarding the Russia hoax. And so that is as cynical as I am, and let me be clear to you, I'm still cynical. I think that the Democrats will cheat and probably successfully steal the election from Donald Trump. I think that no one of significance will be charged. I hope I'm wrong, but that's what I think. It would do a lot for even someone as cynical as me to see someone like Christopher Wray removed. Because that would show to me that the White House is serious about understanding how deep this coup against him went. To understanding that the current director of the FBI is actively engaged in trying to cover up that coup. If he's forced out, then the chances of this information coming to light, particularly before the election, increases drastically. And here's why it's important for this information to come to light before the election. It was important before the 2018 election as well. Because the American people need to see that they've been lied to. They were told for 4 years that Trump was possibly a stooge of Russia. Now we know that this was a scheme concocted by Hillary Clinton that the director of the CIA personally briefed Barack Obama on, and then 3 days later, they ended up starting the Crossfire Hurricane investigation. We see all the examples that I went over last night about how this was corrupt, about how these FBI agents clearly had a bias against Trump, about how Mueller's team clearly had a bias against Trump, about how there were illegal leaks that were coming out of the White House, about how texts from FBI agents show that they were incredibly troubled by what they saw as people in the FBI at the higher-ups that wanted Hillary to win, putting their thumbs on the scale. The American people have a right to know that before they cast a ballot. Because certainly the other side is politicizing the actions of the FBI. Oh, do you trust Trump? He's a stooge of Putin. So that's the first reason that it's important that this comes out as soon as possible. The second is so that people face justice, and if they don't go to jail, nothing else matters. Nothing. If they're able to escape justice on this, then the coup will begin again and again. Anytime that there's a candidate, whether it be Donald Trump win again, whether it be another candidate comes and is against the interests of the intel community, they will constantly attack them, just like Chuck Schumer told us they would. The elected leader, the most powerful person in the world, theoretically, the elected leader of the most powerful country in the world, the United States, must be fearful of unelected bureaucrats and officials in this intelligence community because, quote, they'll find 6 ways from Sunday of getting back at you. That should shock every American. Who you vote for doesn't matter because the intel people are really running the show. That's what Chuck Schumer told you. If they're not arrested and face serious, not slap on the wrist charges, I mean 20, 30, 40 years in prison, life in prison, possibly if you could prove treason as opposed to just sedition, the penalty for that's the death penalty. Seeking to overturn an election, seeking to cooperate with known Russian spies in order to harm a president and his agenda, that's treason. Until people in the intel community face those sorts of consequences for their sedition and treason, they will continue unabated. But the third reason that it's important to get this information out before the election is, make no mistake about it, if Donald Trump does not win this election, there will be zero chance of any more information coming to light about this coup, and no one will face consequences. It's that simple. Period. So we can see, just like with Judge Sullivan in the Flynn case, the goal of the establishment and the Democrats at this point is to run out the clock. So they know they're screwed in the Flynn investigation, yet Sullivan, even the DOJ's like, we're no longer prosecuting the guy. But they need to keep Flynn from being able to speak publicly before the election. And so Judge Sullivan's doing everything he can to drag this out until after the election. That's the goal. Someone said they don't expect Trump to actually declassify it. Yeah, we've heard these claims before, and it wasn't declassified. Again, the cynical nature in me says probably we won't see this information. We might see little sputters like we've been seeing from Ratcliffe, but I'll be shocked if Trump actually declassifies it all and we actually get it all, particularly before the election. I'd be shocked. The president needs to understand, if he does not insist on the declassification of this material immediately, which he should have done years ago, but if he does not do it immediately, when the election is stolen from him, he should look in the mirror and understand that he was a big part in that. I don't know who's convincing him not to. Gina Haspel at the CIA, Christopher Wray at the FBI, maybe it's Barr and Durham, or at least Barr. Maybe they don't want the information to come to light. I don't know. But Trump needs to understand, I would not trust anyone. I wouldn't trust Barr. I wouldn't trust Durham. I wouldn't trust Lindsey Graham. I wouldn't trust Matt Gaetz, and I think that he's a good guy. I would not trust any of them. Do not put your future in the hands of those people. You are the president of the United States. You have the ability to declassify it. Do it. There was a coup against you. You've put your faith in your team that for years have not released this information properly to the American people. Stop relying on them. Declassify it now. So again, I think I'm still cynical. I don't know that we'll see this total declassification. We absolutely should. The Democrats should absolutely be for this declassification because they've told us repeatedly there is no wrongdoing here. Obama did nothing wrong. Biden did nothing wrong. The FBI did nothing wrong. The CIA did nothing wrong. So then no problem. Declassify the information. But they'll hem and haw and say, oh, it'll jeopardize sources and methods, and this is an attack on Joe Biden. How's it an attack on Joe Biden? If the Democrats didn't do anything wrong, if the FBI didn't do anything wrong, this isn't an attack on them. They know. They know that this was garbage, and that's why they're fighting tooth and nail to stop the information from being released. So this needs to happen immediately as far as I'm concerned. We'll see. Again, I know people out there, they're like, oh, are you blackpilled? Oh, you know, do I seem morose? No. Am I doing everything I can to help Republicans win this election and Trump win? Yes. I volunteered for them. I constantly put videos out. I show the corruption of the establishment left and how appalling I think they are. I can't help it, I'm cynical by nature. When I see over and over, we've been told all this stuff's going to get declassified, and then we wait a year, and then 2 years, and then 3 years. When I see that the IG actually recommends James Comey for criminal prosecution, and Barr declines to prosecute. When I see that we can easily prove, for example, that Comey and Brennan and Clapper and McCabe lied to Congress, and yet they're not charged for those crimes, can you blame me for being cynical? Now here we are, 30 days. What is this guy doing? 30 days till an election or less. And we still have all these promises that we were told still haven't came to fruition. And now it's, well, Trump needs to win for this stuff to actually happen. Maybe, but what if Trump doesn't win? And I understand Trump supporters are very confident that Trump's going to win. Should Trump win? Yeah, in a fair world. In a world where we had a media that was even like only 30% objective, Trump would win in a landslide. In a world where our institutions were even 30% objective, Trump would crush it. But that's not the case. The Democrats will stop at nothing. The establishment, not just the Democrats, the establishment will stop at nothing. Again, their problem was they believed their own hype in 2016. They thought that they had it in the bag so much that they took their foot off the gas and didn't cheat as much as they could. They will not make that mistake again. They will not. For God's sakes, they're intentionally crushing the economy, locking down children, which is causing deaths, according to the CDC director, and sending COVID patients into nursing homes to increase the deaths, just so they could blame Donald Trump to try to win an election. Do you really think that they're going to stop there? Once you're capable of literally murdering people in order to try to win an election, are you going to be against cheating at the ballot box? They're already priming America for it. Oh, the polls show, like in Pennsylvania, the polls show Biden up double digits. That's the claim. That's what we're being told. Now, you might say those polls are garbage. I agree. They probably are. They oversample Democrats. There's all sorts of things they don't take into account, and I think that they're just corrupt anyways. But the big reason they're doing that this time is so when they steal Pennsylvania, they'll say, well, this wasn't stealing at all. This falls right in line with the polls. I've been yelling about this corruption for 3 years, saying that people needed to go to jail. Every time we could find that one of these people, like James Comey, broke the law, which I've easily proven that he lied to Congress. I've easily proven that he disseminated classified or, if not just classified, but also confidential information that he wasn't allowed. He disseminated that. These are clear crimes. He wasn't charged for them. I was told by a lot of Trump supporters, oh, it's all part of the plan. Don't worry about it. We're going to get Comey on bigger stuff later. Maybe. That might still happen. I hope it does. Comey should be charged about the bigger stuff. But my point was, you could have primed the American people 2 years ago by charging Comey and Brennan and Clapper for lying to Congress, actually filing those charges. Once they're actually in criminal hearings over that, then the media's ability to brainwash the American people into, oh, all these intel people they all say Trump's a bad man and Russia's, he's the stooge of Vladimir Putin. The American people would have been like, really? Those people that all got charged for lying to Congress? We're going to believe their assessment that Trump's an agent of Putin? But I was told by many Trump supporters, oh, no. Rob, you're crazy for wanting that. It's a good thing that Comey didn't get charged. It's a good thing that McCabe didn't get charged, because this means bigger charges are down the road. Well, we've yet to see them. Now we're within 30 days. You think Comey gets charged in the next 30 days? I don't. The best we can hope for is this declassification to happen so we can actually see the evidence of their in context of me. I have to do debates with people where I'm trying to argue the supremacy. Antifa's not an organization. Now I have to deal with that. People that support Trump, we have to deal with that. They have the institutions on their side. So instead, if the FBI directors had been charged as they should have, then when that person says, but Chris Wray said this, I'll say, oh, Chris Wray, carrying on the rich tradition of James Comey and Rod Rosenstein, who've been charged in a coup attempt against Donald Trump. You see how that sounds a little better? And I'm not just saying it for selfish reasons because of arguments that I've had. This is the same discussion that the American people would be having in their neighborhoods. Then when you understand, when the American people see, wow, these institutions that we task with keeping us safe, they actively tried to subvert our elections. Then all of a sudden, maybe you wouldn't believe the politicization over COVID, where we also have experts that we claim are tasked with keeping us safe, that instead are playing politics and damaging not just the economy and the mental well-being, but also the physical health of this country. So, enough being negative here. It is positive that at least Trump said he's going to declassify. He should come through with it. He should not rely on Bill Barr. He should not rely on other people. Take your pen out right now and declassify the information, period. Give them 5 days. That's it. An order directly from the highest order of the President of the United States, period. No wiggle room. Don't rely on someone else. And I will think it's also an incredibly positive development if at 11 a.m. today, Christopher Wray is no longer the director of the FBI. Maybe it'll be something else. We'll see. That's just the information I've heard. So, all right, I'm at work. What time is it? Early. So, thank you all so much. I really appreciate you all listening. Sorry, I know these driving videos aren't the best quality, but hey, I did a 4-hour video for everyone last night at my house. So, I just do these videos in the interim. Because I'm so busy. So thanks so much. I really appreciate all of you. As always, have a good one.